Samoa, officially the Independent State of Samoa, formerly known as Western Samoa, is an Oceanian country encompassing the western part of the Samoan Islands in the South Pacific Ocean. It became independent from New Zealand in 1962. The two main islands of Samoa are Upolu and Savai'i, one of the biggest islands in Polynesia. The capital city, Apia, and Faleolo International Airport are situated on the island of Upolu. Samoa was admitted to the United Nations on December 15, 1976. The entire island group, inclusive of American Samoa, was called Navigator Islands by European explorers before the 20th century because of the Samoans' seafaring skills. History. The oldest date so far from remains in Samoa has been calculated by New Zealand scientists to a likely true age of circa 3,000 years ago from a lapita site at Fanua during the 1970s. The origins of the Samoans are closely studied in modern research about Polynesia in various scientific disciplines such as genetics, linguistics and anthropology. Scientific research is ongoing although a number of different theories exist, including one proposing that the Samoans originated from Austronesian predecessors during the terminal eastward lapita expansion period from Southeast Asia and Melanesia between 2500 and 1500 BCE. The Samoan origins are currently being reassessed due to new scientific evidence and carbon dating findings from 2003 and onwards. Intimate sociocultural and genetic ties were maintained between the eastern lapita colonies, and the archaeological record supports oral tradition and native genealogies that indicate inter-island voyaging and intermarriage between prehistoric Samoans, Fijians, and Tongans. Contact with Europeans began in the early 18th century. Jacob Roggeveen, a Dutchman, was the first known European to sight the Samoan Islands in 1722. This visit was followed by French explorer Louis-Antoine de Bougainville, who named them the Navigator Islands in 1768. Contact was limited before the 1830s, which is when English missionaries and traders began arriving. Mission work in Samoa had begun in late 1830 by John Williams, of the London Missionary Society, arriving in Sapapalai from the Cook Islands and Tahiti. According to Barbara A. West, the Samoans were also known to engage in headhunting, a ritual of war in which a warrior took the head of his slain opponent to give to his leader, thus proving his bravery. There is recorded history of an event which took place when 2 German lives were taken and then their corpses beheaded by a citizen during that nation's administration of Samoa. A return attempt between 2 Samoans led to similar beheading, although the practice was known not to be condoned amongst Samoans. The event precedes the short time before further tripartite conflict for the territories. Robert Louis Stevenson, the author, who lived in Samoa from 1889, wrote in his record of the period 1882–1892 a footnote to history, 8 years of trouble in Samoa, the Samoans are gentle people. The Germans in particular began to show great commercial interest in the Samoan Islands, especially on the island of Upolu where German firms monopolized copra and cocoa bean processing. The United States laid its own claim and formed alliances with local native chieftains, most conspicuously on the islands of Tutuila and Maine. Britain also sent troops to protect British business enterprise, harbour rights, and consulate office. There followed an 8-year civil war, where each of the 3 powers supplied arms, training, and in some cases, combat troops to the warring Samoan parties. The Samoan crisis came to a critical juncture in March 1889 when all 3 colonial contenders sent warships into Apia Harbour, and a larger-scale war seemed imminent, until a massive storm on March 15, 1889 damaged or destroyed the warships, ending the military conflict. The Second Samoan Civil War was a conflict that reached a head in 1898 when Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States were locked in dispute over who should have control over the Samoa Islands. The Siege of Apia occurred during the Second Samoan Civil War in March 1899 at Apia. Samoan forces loyal to Prince Tenu were besieged by a larger force of Samoan rebels loyal to Mataʻafaʻisefo. Supporting Prince Tenu were landing parties from 4 British and American warships. Over the course of several days of fighting, the Samoan rebels were defeated. American and British warships shelled Apia on March 15, 1899. including the USS Philadelphia. Germany, the United Kingdom and the United States quickly resolved to end the hostilities. With the partitioning of the island chain at the Tripartite Convention of 1899. 1899–1914, the Tripartite Convention of 1899 partitioned the Samoan Islands into two parts. The Eastern Island Group became a territory of the United States and became known as American Samoa. The Western Islands, by far the greater landmass, became known as German Samoa after Britain vacated all claims to Samoa and accepted termination of German rights in Tonga and certain areas in the Solomon Islands and West Africa. The Germans ruled Western Samoa from 1900 to 1914, although the German government under Prince Bismarck had announced Samoa's annexation as early as 1885. In 1908, the Samoan people formed the non-violent Mau resistance movement. In 1909 the German government deported the Mau leader, Lauaki Namularilumamo, to Saipan in the German-ruled Northern Mariana Islands. By 1912 the German administration, preparing for war in Europe, maintained a semblance of local participation in government, which they had been studying, in order to dominate it, in colonial fashion. There was no more Tup, nor even Alasilai, but the two Fortua were appointed. Chimua and Pule were for a time silent. All decisions on matters affecting lands and titles were under the control of the governor. To complete the process, the €4 unregistered trademark Alapega for all Samoa was revised. In a culture based on oratory, the €4 unregistered trademark Alapega is a formal greeting which acknowledges those being greeted and their status. The €4 unregistered trademark Alapega, which had been nationally accepted from at least the late 19th century, was as follows: Tolona Chimua Ma Pule, Tolona Alatua Euro unregistered trademark or Ma Alatua, Tolona Aiga Ilatai, Ma Lavo Euro unregistered trademark Ao Fonoti, Tolona Atama Ma Alato Aiga Poa Euro unregistered trademark O Aiga Ma Alato Tama. This first recognized the authority and identity of principal districts of Samoa through their spokesman Euro Chimua Ma Pule, Atua Euro unregistered trademark or Ma Alatua, Aiga Ilatai, and the Veo Fonoti Euro, and the highest titles which were bestowed by these groups. It concludes with the recognition of the great maximal descent groups of Samoa and their sons, who had been chosen to hold the highest titles. The new €4 unregistered trademark Alapega of German Samoa, which in its first line recognizes the Kaiser, apparently required Malitoa Tangmawhalae and Tupua Tamases to be sworn on oath to become advisors to the governing council. Tolona Alana Mazi Tate La Kaisa Ola Tup Mamalao Lota Toi Malo Kasia Lika Anoi. Tolona Alana Afioga La Kovana Kasia Lika Ola Suio La Kaisa I Samoa Neri. Siasu My Malitoa, Afio My Tupua €4 unregistered trademark Manatui Anai Aiga Ila Ioula Tofiga Kasia Lika Ola Fortua Tolona La Vezaga Afeapul Kasia Lika Oile Galago Malosi Ila Malo Afafio Milanofa Wa Vezaga No Tofiga Kasia Lika Oeu Sufita Ila Tortua Ila Malo. The first German governor, Wilhelm Sulf, later went on to become secretary for the colonies of Imperial Germany. New Zealand troops landed on Upolu unopposed on August 29, 1914 and seized control from the German authorities, following a request by Britain for New Zealand to perform their great and urgent imperial service. New Zealand Rule 1914 Euro 1962. From the end of World War I until 1962, New Zealand controlled Samoa as a Class C mandate under trusteeship through the League of Nations, then through the United Nations. There followed a series of New Zealand administrators who were responsible for two major incidents. In the first incident, approximately one-fifth of the Samoan population died in the influenza epidemic of 1918 Euro 1919. In 1919 the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the epidemic concluded that there had been no epidemic of pneumonic influenza in Western Samoa before the arrival of the SS Toulon from Auckland on November 7, 1918. The NZ administration allowed the ship to berth in breach of quarantine. Within 7 days of this ship's arrival influenza became epidemic in Upolu and then spread rapidly throughout the rest of the territory. The second major incident arose out of an initially peaceful protest by the Mau, a non-violent popular movement which had its beginnings in the early 1900s on Savai'i, led by Lauaki Namularilumamo, an orator chief deposed by Sulf. In 1909, Lauaki was exiled to Saipan and died en route back to Samoa in 1915. By 1918, Samoa had population of some 38,000 Samoans and 1,500 Europeans. However, Samoans greatly resented New Zealand's imperialism, and blamed inflation and the catastrophic 1918 flu epidemic on its misrule. By the late 1920s, the resistance movement against colonial rule had gathered widespread support during the mistreatment of the Samoan people by the New Zealand administration. One of the Mau leaders was Olaf Frederick Nelson, a half-Samoan and half-Swedish merchant. Nelson was eventually exiled during the late 1920s and early 1930s, but he continued to assist the organization financially and politically. In accordance with the Mau's non-violent philosophy, the newly elected leader, High Chief Tuto'atasi Lalafi, led his fellow uniformed Mau in a peaceful demonstration in downtown Apia on December 28, 1929. The New Zealand police attempted to arrest one of the leaders in the demonstration. When he resisted, a struggle developed between the police and the Mau. The officers began to fire randomly into the crowd, and a Lewis machine gun, mounted in preparation for this demonstration, was used to disperse the demonstrators. Chief Tamases was shot from behind and killed while trying to bring calm and order to the Mau demonstrators, screaming "Peace, Samoa." 10 others died that day and approximately 50 were injured by gunshot wounds and police batons. That day would come to be known in Samoa as Black Saturday. The Mau grew, remaining steadfastly non-violent, and expanded to include a highly influential women's branch. Independence 1962. After repeated efforts by the Samoan people, Western Samoa gained independence on January 1, 1962, and signed a friendship treaty with New Zealand. Samoa, the first small island country in the Pacific to become independent, joined the Commonwealth of Nations on August 28, 1970. While independence was achieved at the beginning of January, Samoa annually celebrates June 1 as its Independence Day. In 2002, New Zealand's Prime Minister Helen Clark, on a trip to Samoa, formally apologised for New Zealand's role in the events of 1918 and 1929. In July 1997, the government amended the constitution to change the country's name from Western Samoa to Samoa. The U.S. territory of American Samoa protested the move, asserting that the change diminished its own identity. As of 2012, American Samoans still use the terms Western Samoa and Western Samoans to describe the independent state of Samoa and its inhabitants. Travel writer Paul Theroux noted marked differences between the societies in Samoa and American Samoa. 21st century. On September 7, 2009, the government changed the driving orientation for motorists, and Samoans now drive on the left-hand side of the road. This brings Samoa into line with many other countries in the region. Samoa is the first country in recent years, and the first in the 21st century, to switch to driving on the left. At the end of December 2011, Samoa jumped forward by 1 day, omitting December 30 from the local calendar, when the nation moved to the west of the international date line. This was designed to help the nation boost its economy by doing business with Australia and New Zealand. Before this change, Samoa was 21 hours behind Sydney, but the change means it is now 3 hours ahead. The previous time zone was agreed on July 4, 1892, to work in line with American traders based in California. Politics. The 1960 Constitution, which formally came into force with independence from New Zealand in 1962, is based on the British pattern of parliamentary democracy, modified to take account of Samoan customs. The national modern government of Samoa is referred to as the Malo. Samoa's first prime minister was Fiamata Fa'afafo unregistered trademark Utu, one of the 4 highest-ranking paramount chiefs in the country. 2 other paramount chiefs at the time of independence were appointed joint heads of state for life. Tuto'atasi Maol died in 1963, leaving Malito Atangmawhalaito sole head of state until his death on May 11, 2007, upon which Samoa changed from a constitutional monarchy to a parliamentary republic de facto. The next head of state, Tuto'atasi Zefi, was elected by the legislature on June 17, 2007 for a fixed 5-year term. The unicameral legislature consists of 49 members serving 5-year terms. 47 are Matai title holders elected from territorial districts by Samoans. The other 2 are chosen by non-Samoans with no chiefly affiliation on separate electoral rolls. Universal suffrage was extended in 1990, but only chiefs may stand for election to the Samoan seats. There are more than 25,000 Matai in the country, about 5% of whom are women. The Prime Minister is chosen by a majority in the whānau and is appointed by the head of state to form a government. The Prime Minister's choices for the 12 cabinet positions are appointed by the head of state, subject to the continuing confidence of the whānau. Prominent women in Samoan politics include the late Lolu Feto'aimala Mata'afa from La Torfaga constituency, the wife of Samoa's first Prime Minister. Their daughter Fiam Naomi Mata'afa is a paramount chief and a long-serving senior member of cabinet. Other women in politics include Samoan scholar and eminent Professor Aiono Fainafi Litagoloa, orator Chief Matachimua Memoana and Safunai Taragaparaga Neri, the current Minister of Communication and Technology. The judicial system is based on English common law and local customs. The Supreme Court of Samoa is the court of highest jurisdiction. Its Chief Justice is appointed by the head of state upon the recommendation of the Prime Minister. Districts. Samoa is made up of 11 itamala. These are the traditional 11 districts that were established well before European arrival. Each district has its own constitutional foundation based on the traditional order of title precedents found in each district's whalepega. The capital village of each district administers and coordinates the affairs of the district and confers each district's paramount title, amongst other responsibilities. For example, the district of Awana has its capital at Leilama'iga. The paramount title of Awana is the Tuiana. The orator group which confers this title the Faleolo is based at Leilama'iga. This is also the same for the other districts. In the district of Tuamazaga, the paramount title of the district the Malitoa title is conferred by the Faletuamazaga based in Afega. One including islands Mornino, Apalima and Niulapa, 2 including the ʻaliapata Islands and New Usafari Island, 3 smaller parts also on Upolu and Lava villages. Geography. Samoa is located south of the equator, about halfway between Hawaii and New Zealand in the Polynesian region of the Pacific Ocean. The total land area is 2,842 ʻsaːʻmoa², consisting of the 2 large islands of Upolu and Savai'i which account for 99% of the total land area, and 8 small islets. These are the 3 islets in the Apalima Strait, the 4 ʻaliapata Islands off the eastern end of Upolu, and New Usafari off the south coast of Upolu at the village of Varavai. The main island of Upolu is home to nearly 3/4 of Samoa's population, and its capital city is Apia. The Samoan Islands have been produced by volcanism, the source of which is the Samoa hotspot, which is probably the result of a mantle plume. While all of the islands have volcanic origins, only Savai'i, the westernmost island in Samoa, is volcanically active with the most recent eruptions in Mount Matavenu, Mataʻola'afi and Morga'afi. The highest point in Samoa is Mount Silisili, at 1858 am. The cellular lava fields situated on the central north coast of Savai'i are the result of the Mount Matavenu eruptions which left 50 ʻsaːʻmoa² of solidified lava. Samoa was previously located east of the international date line, but in 2011, Samoan Prime Minister Tulaʻi Pasilele announced his country would move the international date line to the east of the country, so that Samoa would lie to the west of the date line. This change took effect on the night of December 29, so that the Friday was skipped altogether and the following day was Saturday, 31 December. Climate. The climate is equatorial monsoonal, with an average annual temperature of 26.5 degrees Celsius, and a rainy season from November to April. Savai'i is the largest of the Samoan Islands and the 6th largest Polynesian island after New Zealand's North, South and Stewart Islands and the Hawaiian Islands of Hawaii and Maui. The population of Savai'i is 42,000 people. Environment. Samoa is located within the Samoan tropical moist forests ecoregion. Since human habitation began, about 80% of the lowland rainforests has been lost. Within the ecoregion, about 28% of plants and 84% of land birds are endemic. Economy. Gross domestic product in purchasing power parity in 2006 was estimated at $1.218 billion USD. The industrial sector is the largest component of GDP at 58.4%, followed by the services sector at 30.2%. Agriculture represents only 11.4% of GDP. Samoan labor force is estimated at 90,000. The country currency is the Samoan tālā, issued and regulated by the Central Bank of Samoa. The economy of Samoa has traditionally been dependent on agriculture and fishing at the local level. In modern times, development aid, private family remittances from overseas, and agricultural exports have become key factors in the nation's economy. Agriculture employs two-thirds of the labor force, and furnishes 90% of exports, featuring coconut cream, coconut oil, nani, and copra. Outside of a large automotive wire harness factory, the manufacturing sector mainly processes agricultural products. Tourism is an expanding sector which now accounts for 25% of GDP. Tourist arrivals have been increasing over the years, with more than 100,000 tourists visiting the islands in 2005, up from 70,000 in 1996. The Samoan government has called for deregulation of the financial sector, encouragement of investment, and continued fiscal discipline. Observers point to the flexibility of the labor market as a basic strength for future economic advances. The sector has been helped enormously by major capital investment in hotel infrastructure, political instability in neighboring Pacific countries, and the 2005 launch of Virgin Samoa, a joint venture between the government and Virgin Australia. In the period before German colonization, Samoa produced mostly copra. German merchants and settlers were active in introducing large-scale plantation operations and developing new industries, notably cocoa bean and rubber, relying on imported laborers from China and Melanesia. When the value of natural rubber fell drastically, about the end of the Great War, the New Zealand government encouraged the production of bananas, for which there is a large market in New Zealand. Because of variations in altitude, a large range of tropical and subtropical crops can be cultivated, but land is not generally available to outside interests. Of the total land area of 2,934 km², about 24.4% is in permanent crops and another 21.2% is arable. About 4.4% is Western Samoan Trust Estates Corporation. The staple products of Samoa are copra, cocoa bean, and bananas. The annual production of both bananas and copra has been in the range of 13,000 to 15,000 metric tons. If the rhinoceros beetle in Samoa were eradicated, Samoa could produce in excess of 40,000 metric tons of copra. Samoan cocoa beans are of very high quality and used in fine New Zealand chocolates. Most are Criollo forastero hybrids. Coffee grows well, but production has been uneven. WSTEC is the biggest coffee producer. Rubber has been produced in Samoa for many years, but its export value has little impact on the economy. Other agricultural industries have been less successful. Sugarcane production, originally established by Germans in the early 20th century, could be successful. Old train tracks for transporting cane can be seen at some plantations east of Apia. Pineapples grow well in Samoa, but beyond local consumption have not been a major export. Demographics. Samoa has a population of 194,320, of which 92.6% are Samoans, 7% Euronesians and 0.4% are Europeans, per the CIA World Factbook. About three-quarters of the population live on the main island of Upolu. Only the Maori of New Zealand outnumber Samoans among Polynesian groups. Samoans' religious adherence includes the following: Christian Congregational Church of Samoa 31.8%, Roman Catholic 19.4%, Mormons 15.2%, Methodist 13.7%, Seventh-day Adventist 3.9%, Worship Center 1.7%, other Christian 5.5%, other 0.7%, none 0.1%, unspecified 0.1%. The head of state until 2007, His Highness Malitoa Tangmawhalaito, was a Baha'i convert. Samoa hosts one of 7 Baha'i houses of worship in the world. Completed in 1984 and dedicated by the head of state, it is located in Te Apa Bata, 8 km from Apia. Samoan and English are official languages. Samoan Sign Language is used by at least some of the deaf population. Culture. The Whea Samoa, or traditional Samoan way, remains a strong force in Samoan life and politics. Despite centuries of European influence, Samoa maintains its historical customs, social and political systems, and language. Cultural customs such as the Samoa Ava ceremony are significant and solemn rituals at important occasions including the bestowal of matai chiefly titles. Items of great cultural value include the finely woven ia toga. Samoan mythology includes many gods with creation stories and figures of legend such as Tigoloa and the goddess of war Nafanua, the daughter of severe Sualeo, ruler of the spirit realm Pilotu. Other legends include the well-known story of Shina and the eel which explains the origins of the first coconut tree. Some Samoans are spiritual and religious, and have subtly adapted the dominant religion of Christianity to fit in with Whea Samoa and vice versa. As such, ancient beliefs continue to coexist side by side with Christianity, particularly in regard to the traditional customs and rituals of Whea Samoa. The Samoan culture is centered around the principle of whāwhielai, the relationships between people. These relationships are based on respect, or whāololo. When Christianity was introduced in Samoa, most Samoan people converted. Currently 98% of the population identify themselves as Christian. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a strong presence in Samoa and claims 73,827, 38% members. The other 2% either identify themselves as irreligious, or do not belong to any congregation. Some Samoans live a communal way of life, participating in activities collectively. Examples of this are the traditional Samoan whale which are open with no walls, using blinds made of coconut palm fronds during the night or bad weather. The Samoan word for dance is shiva with unique gentle movements of the body in time to music and which tells a story, although the Samoan male dances can be more physical and snappy. The sasa is also a traditional dance where rows of dancers perform rapid synchronized movements in time to the rhythm of wooden drums or rolled mats. Another dance performed by males is called the whaitropiti or the slap dance, creating rhythmic sounds by slapping different parts of the body. This is believed to have been derived from slapping insects on the body. The form and construction of traditional architecture of Samoa was a specialized skill by Tafuga Whale that was also linked to other cultural art forms. Tattooing. As with other Polynesian cultures with significant and unique tattoos, Samoans have 2 gender-specific and culturally significant tattoos. For males, it is called the pia and consists of intricate and geometrical patterns tattooed that cover areas from the knees up towards the ribs. A male who possesses such a tattoo is called a sojaimati. A Samoan girl or tain is given a malab, which covers the area from just below her knees to her upper thighs. Contemporary culture. Albert Wendt is a significant Samoan writer whose novels and stories tell the Samoan experience. In 1989, his novel Flying Fox in a Freedom Tree was made into a feature film in New Zealand, directed by Martin Sanderson. Another novel Sons for the Return Home had also been made into a feature film in 1979, directed by Paul Maunder. The late John Newell, born in American Samoa, was an accomplished playwright and screenwriter and writer. Sia Figel won the 1997 Commonwealth Writers' Prize for Fiction in the Southeast Asia-South Pacific region with her novel, Where We Once Belonged. Momo von Raisch is an internationally recognized poet and artist. Tuto'atasi is a performance poet. Her first book of poetry Wild Dogs Under My Skirt was published by Victoria University Press in 2004. Dan Talipepa McMullen is an artist and writer. Other Samoan poets and writers include Saparu Prapeter, Eti Sariga and Sava Sano Malaifa, the editor of the Samoa Observer. In music, popular local bands include the Five Stars, Penina Ota'afi and Puni Olivea. The Yandall Sisters' cover of the song Sweet Inspiration reached number 1 on the New Zealand charts in 1974. King Kapusi was the first hip-hop artist to receive the prestigious New Zealand APRA Silver Scroll Award in 1999 for his song Reverse Resistance. The music video for Reverse Resistance was filmed in Savai'i at his villages. Other successful Samoan hip-hop artists include rapper Scribe, Derry Hamo, Savage and The Feel Style, whose music video Sumali was filmed in Samoa. Lemaipo Naifazio is a director and choreographer who is prominent internationally with his dance company MAU. Neil Ioremia's company Black Grace has also received international acclaim with tours to Europe and New York. Hip-hop has had a significant impact on Samoan culture. According to Katerina Martina Tiewa, Ph.D. from the University of Hawaii at Manua, hip-hop culture in particular is popular amongst Samoan youth. This is not surprising considering the large amounts of migration between Samoa, Hawaii, and the United States mainland, specifically California. In addition, the integration of hip-hop elements into Samoan tradition also testifies to the transferability of the dance forms themselves, and to the circuits through which people and all their embodied knowledge travel. Dance, both in its traditional form and its more modern forms, has remained a central cultural currency to Samoans, especially youths. The arts organization Tautai is a collective of visual artists including Fa'achiafu'u, Johnny Peninsula, Shigeya Yuki Kihara, Iosefa Leo, Michelle Tufferi, John Iron and Lily Later. Director Simon Urail is an award-winning filmmaker. Urail's short film Otomaiti won the prestigious Best Short Film at the Venice Film Festival in 1996. Her first feature film Apron Strings opened the 2008 NZ International Film Festival. A feature film Sin's Wedding, co-written by Oscar Kitely, was financially successful following premieres in Auckland and Apia. The 2011 film The Orator was the first ever fully Samoan film, shot in Samoa in the Samoan language with a Samoan cast telling a uniquely Samoan story. Written and directed by Tasi Tamases, it received much critical acclaim and attention at film festivals throughout the world. In comedy, Laughing Samoans, The Naked Samoans and Kyla Coconut Crew have enjoyed sold-out tours. Actor and director Nathaniel Lees has featured in many theatre productions and films, including his role as Captain Myphune in the Matrix movie trilogy. Published playwrights include Oscar Kitely, Victor Roger, Makarita Urail and Niuean Samoan playwright Diana Fumena. Sport. The main sports played in Samoa are rugby union, rugby league, Samoan cricket and netball. Rugby union is the national football code of Samoa. In Samoan villages, volleyball is also popular. Rugby union is the national sport in Samoa and the national team, nicknamed the Manu Samoa, is consistently competitive against teams from vastly more populous nations. Samoa has competed at every Rugby World Cup since 1991, and made the quarter-finals in 1991, 1995 and the second round of the 1999 World Cup. At the 2003 World Cup, Manu Samoa came close to beating eventual world champions, England. Samoa also played in the Pacific Nations Cup and the Pacific Tri-Nations. The sport is governed by the Samoa Rugby Football Union, who are members of the Pacific Islands Rugby Alliance, and thus, also contribute to the International Pacific Islanders Rugby Union team. At club level there is the National Provincial Championship and Pacific Rugby Cup. They also took home the cup at Wellington and the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens in 2007, a Euro for which the Prime Minister of Samoa, also chairman of the National Rugby Union, Taila Euro unregistered trademark Ipis or Euro unregistered trademark Ilal Malugor, declared a national holiday. They also were the IRB World Sevens Series champions in 2010, capping a year of achievement for the Samoans, following wins in the USA, Australia, Hong Kong and Scotland Sevens tournaments. Prominent Samoan players include Pat Lam and Brian Lima. In addition, many Samoans have played for or are playing for New Zealand. Rugby league is mostly played by Samoans living in New Zealand and Australia, with Samoa reaching the quarter-finals of the 2000 Rugby League World Cup made of players playing in the NRL and Super League. Many Samoans and New Zealanders or Australians of Samoan descent play in the Super League and National Leagues in Britain. Francis Mully, Alan Lavu of Workington Town, Maury Fa'asavala of St Helens and David Fasciela of Whitehaven and Setimaza who signed with London Irish Rugby Club. Other noteworthy players from NZ and Australia have represented the Samoan national team. The 2011 domestic Samoan Rugby League competition contained 10 teams with plans to expand to 12 in 2012. Samoans have been very visible in boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, and sumo. Some Samoan sumo wrestlers, most famously Musashi Maru and Konishiki, have reached the highest rank of Ozeki and Yokozuna. American football is occasionally played in Samoa, reflecting its wide popularity in American Samoa, where the sport is played under high school sanction. About 30 ethnic Samoans, many from American Samoa, currently play in the National Football League. A 2002 article from ESPN estimated that a Samoan male is 40 times more likely to play in the NFL than a non-Samoan American. See also. References. Further reading, Watson, R.M., History of Samoa, Milasia, Malama. The Making of Modern Samoa, Traditional Authority and Colonial Administration in the Modern History of Western Samoa. Institute of Pacific Studies, University of the South Pacific. Schnee, Dr. Heinrich. 1926. German Colonization, Past and Future, The Truth About the German Colonies. London, George Allen and Unwin. Eustace, Nelson. 1979, 1980. Aggie Gray of Samoa. Adelaide, South Australia, Hobby Investments. ISBN 0-9595609-0-4. Stevenson, Robert Louis. A Footnote to History, 8 Years of Trouble in Samoa. Bibliobazaar. ISBN A1-4264-0754-8. Mead, Margaret. 1928, Coming of Age in Samoa, A Study of Adolescence and Sex in Primitive Societies. Freeman, Derek. 1983. Margaret Mead in Samoa, The Making and Unmaking of an Anthropological Myth. Umnihazy Attila. 2013 book publication Samoan and Marquesan Life in Oceania, A Probing Travelogue. ISBN 9780646909127. A National Library of Australia, Bib ID, 6377055. External links. Government of Samoa, Chief of State and Cabinet Members, General Information, Samoa entry at the World Factbook, University of Colorado from UCB Libraries GovPubs, Samoa at DMOZ, Samoa from the BBC News, Wikimedia Atlas of Samoa, Samoa Tourism Authority, Key Development Forecasts for Samoa from International Futures.